I, a 54-year-old male, have been a carpenter my whole life. Nothing fancy, just honest work with my hands. When my wife split when our daughter Lily was only 8, it was just me and her against the world. We didn't have much. We lived in a small 2-bedroom rental on the edge of town, the kind of place where you can hear the neighbors arguing through the walls and the roof leaks when it rains too hard. But damn, I tried my best. I worked extra jobs, took on weekend projects, and did whatever I could to make sure she had what she needed. Some nights I'd come home with my hands so blistered and raw I could barely hold a fork, but I'd still help her with homework. When her school needed money for field trips or special programs, I'd pick up another side job. No way was my girl going to miss out because we didn't have cash. Our place wasn't much, but I made sure she had her own room, decorated exactly how she wanted it. Pink walls at first, then those boy band posters, then finally that weird dark phase with all the string lights. I built her bookshelves, a desk for studying, and even made her a custom bed frame when she said she wanted something unique for her room. We didn't have fancy vacations or designer clothes, but I made sure she never went hungry, always had school supplies, and knew she was loved. I taught her to fish at the creek behind our neighborhood, showed her how to change a tire and fix a leaky faucet. Every Sunday, we'd make pancakes together and talk about the week. She was a pretty smart kid too, always bringing home good grades. I remember how proud I felt every time she brought home her report card, watching her grow into this confident, bright young woman despite not having the advantages other kids had. When she got into college, the first person in our family to go, I nearly cried. I worked myself half to death to help with what financial aid didn't cover. I lived on ramen and coffee so she could have a decent laptop and picked up night shifts at a warehouse just to send her a little extra cash each month. That's what dads do, right? You make it work. It was rough not having her around the house. Our place felt too quiet, like something important was missing. I'd find myself walking past her room, looking at all the little marks on the doorframe where I'd measured her height growing up. But man, seeing her thrive in school made it all worth it. She'd call me, all excited about her classes, talking about stuff I barely understood but was so proud of her for learning. During her junior year, she started changing. She called less and visited less on breaks. When she did come home, she seemed kind of uncomfortable, like our little house suddenly wasn't good enough. She started talking differently too, using fancy words and correcting my grammar. I figured it was just part of her growing up, getting educated, and moving into a different world than the one I could give her. Then she met that dude. I'll call him Nathan. During her senior year, he came from some wealthy family with a big house in the suburbs, a private school kid with a fancy car, the whole deal. The first time she brought him by our place, I could tell he was uncomfortable. He kept looking around like he might catch something from our secondhand furniture, and barely touched the dinner I made, a special roast I'd been saving for, wanting to impress her new boyfriend. He kept checking his watch the whole time, clearly wanting to leave. After that, she mostly met me at diners or coffee shops when she wanted to see me and stopped bringing him around. I didn't push it. I figured she was embarrassed by our modest living, and that hurt, but I wanted her to be happy more than anything. So, when she called to tell me she was engaged about a year after graduation, I was surprised but tried to be happy for her. My little girl was finding her person. She sounded so excited on the phone, talking about the big diamond ring and how Nathan's family had connections and money and how different her life was going to be. Then came the conversation that changed everything. She stopped by the house one afternoon, all dressed up in clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She was fidgeting with her engagement ring, this massive diamond that probably cost more than my truck. I offered her some coffee and her favorite chipped mug, the one with the cartoon cat I'd saved from her childhood. Dad about the wedding she started, not quite meeting my eyes. I smiled, assuming she wanted to ask if I could help make something for the ceremony, maybe an arch or some custom signs. My mind was already planning what wood I'd use. Nathan's father will be walking me down the aisle, she said quickly, not looking at me. I just stared at her, coffee mug halfway to my lips. Come again? She shifted in her seat. His family is very traditional, and his father is an important figure in their community. We've discussed it, and it would be more appropriate. More appropriate than having your actual father do it? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at the floor, at the walls, anywhere but at me. Dad, there's something else. Nathan's family, they don't exactly know about you. That hit me like a sledgehammer. What do you mean they don't know about me? She twisted her ring nervously. I told them my parents were both gone, that I was raised by distant relatives who aren't in the picture anymore. I put my mug down before I dropped it. You told them I was dead? Not exactly dead, just not around. She finally looked at me, her expression pleading. You have to understand, Dad. These people are different. They come from money, from influence. They wouldn't understand this. She gestured vaguely around my living room with its second-hand furniture and the coffee table I'd built from reclaimed wood. I sat there, trying to process that my daughter was ashamed of me, of our life together, so ashamed she erased me completely. 20 years of sacrifices of working my fingers to the bone to give her a good life, and she was pretending I didn't exist to impress some rich people. So, what am I supposed to do on your wedding day? Pretend I don't exist? Watch from the parking lot? My voice sounded weird, like it belonged to someone else. She had the decency to look uncomfortable. I was hoping you'd understand. Maybe you could come as a distant family friend, just not, not as my dad. Something broke inside me that day. All those years of putting her first, of making sure she knew she was loved despite not having much, and she was willing to deny my existence to impress rich strangers. I didn't yell, didn't throw things. I just looked at my daughter, this stranger in designer clothes sitting in my living room, and said, "I think you should leave now." Her eyes widened. "Dad, please, I need some time," I said, standing up. "This is a lot to take in." She left without another word, and I went to my workshop and built a rocking chair until 4 in the morning, trying to work out my feelings through my hands, like I always have. That night, I cried for the first time since her mother left us. Not just because of what she'd said, but because somewhere along the way, I'd lost my daughter and hadn't even noticed it happening. The weeks before the wedding were probably the longest of my life. I kept going back and forth between being mad as hell and just feeling this deep sadness I couldn't shake. One minute, I'd be determined to respect Lily's wishes and stay away from her fancy wedding with all those rich people. The next minute, I'd be so angry I couldn't see straight, thinking about showing up and telling everyone exactly who I was. I tried to keep busy in my workshop, taking on extra projects to keep my mind off things. My buddy Jeff kept asking what was wrong, said I looked like I hadn't slept in days. I probably hadn't. Lily tried calling a few times, but I wasn't ready to talk. Like, what was I supposed to say? "Sure, honey, I understand you're ashamed of me, no problem." Her messages got more and more desperate as the wedding got closer. "Please understand, I hope you're not still upset. I need to finalize the guest list." Like the real issue was the head count for the caterer, not the fact that she was denying I existed. I finally texted back, "I won't mess up your big day. Don't worry about me." Short and simple. She sent back a bunch of heart emojis, completely missing that I was barely keeping it together. That night I sat in my workshop staring at the scraps of wood on my bench. My hands moved on their own, carving, like they always had when I needed to quiet my mind. I wasn't sure why I was doing it at first, maybe habit, maybe hope. By the time the sun started creeping through the shop window, I was holding a wooden keepsake box, solid oak, polished smooth, with her name engraved on the lid in the same handwriting I used to leave notes in her lunchbox when she was little. Inside, I lined it with velvet and placed something else inside, a letter. "Lily, no matter where life takes you, you were never unwanted, never unloved. I hope this brings you more joy than pain someday. Dad." It wasn't an apology, it wasn't a plea, just the truth. I wasn't the one walking her down the aisle, but the least I could do was let her know that somewhere in this world, someone loved her without conditions, without status, without expectations. The next morning, I drove to the venue, handed the box to the concierge at the front desk, and left. No name, no return address, just a gift from a father who had already lost his daughter. The actual wedding day, I stayed home, tried to work on some projects, but couldn't focus enough to use power tools safely. I almost took off a finger with the table saw before I decided to just sit on the porch and stare at nothing. As I sat there, I kept wondering where I went wrong. Was it because I couldn't give her fancy vacations and designer clothes? Did I mess up in my part as a dad by working so much to pay the bills that I missed something important? Or was she just embarrassed by my rough hands and simple life? That night, around 8, my phone blew up with messages and calls, not from Lily, but from Mike, this buddy of mine who works maintenance at the fancy hotel where they were having the reception. We've done some contract jobs together over the years, fixing stuff around the hotel. "Dude, you're not going to believe what just happened," he said when I finally picked up. According to Mike, everything was going according to plan until right before the ceremony. The guests were all seated in this fancy garden setup. Then there was this long, awkward delay. People started whispering, checking their watches, wondering what was going on. The wedding planner came out, looking stressed, and announced there would be a slight delay. Then, the bridal suite door burst open, and Lily stormed out in her wedding dress, mascara running down her face, looking absolutely furious. Turns out, Nathan's father had somehow discovered the truth about me. Mike wasn't sure how. Maybe they hired a private investigator. Maybe someone from Lily's college days recognized her and said something. However it happened, right before he was supposed to walk her down the aisle, he confronted her. "I won't be party to this deception," he apparently told her. You lied about your entire background. Your father is alive, a carpenter living across town. What else have you been lying about? Are you just after my son's money?" He flat out refused to walk her down the aisle, said he couldn't in good conscience give away a bride who had built her marriage on such a fundamental lie, and called her a gold digger right to her face in front of her bridesmaids. The ceremony got delayed almost an hour while everyone scrambled to figure out what to do. Eventually, Lily walked down the aisle alone, trying to keep her head high while everyone whispered and stared. Mike said you could practically feel the tension in the air, all these rich people suddenly wondering who this girl really was. And Nathan? He just stood at the altar, looking embarrassed and annoyed, like her humiliation was an inconvenience to him. He didn't even step forward to meet her halfway or offer support. Just stood there, fidgeting with his cufflinks, while she made the longest walk of her life alone. When Mike finished telling me what happened, I felt nothing. Not happiness that she'd been caught in her lie, not satisfaction that karma had come around, just this empty feeling in my chest. This wasn't how I wanted things to go. I never wanted her to be humiliated. I just wanted her to be proud of where she came from, of the life we'd built together despite all the challenges. I thanked Mike for letting me know and hung up, wondering if I should reach out to her. Before I could decide, my phone rang again. It was Lily, and man, she was pissed. "How could you?" she screamed, her voice cracking with emotion. "How could you what?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Don't play dumb. You told them. You told Nathan's family about yourself. You ruined everything." I sat there, stunned by the accusation. "I didn't tell anyone anything," I said calmly. "I haven't spoken to a single person from Nathan's family, ever." "Liar," she shrieked. "His father knew everything, every detail. He humiliated me in front of everyone, called me a gold digger, said I wasn't good enough for their family, and it's all your fault." "Listen to me," I said, trying to stay calm. "I didn't do this. I promised I wouldn't mess with your wedding, and I kept that promise. I haven't left the house all day." "Then how did he find out?" she demanded. "No one else knew. No one." "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Maybe he did a background check. Rich people do that kind of thing, don't they? Especially when someone's marrying into their family." She wasn't hearing me. In her mind, I was the bad guy who deliberately ruined her big day, her chance at joining this wealthy family. No matter what I said, she was convinced I had betrayed her. "I will never forgive you for this," she said, her voice suddenly cold and hard. Never. The line went dead. I tried calling her back a couple of times, but she'd blocked my number. I sent a few texts that went unanswered. I even thought about driving to her apartment, but what was the point? She wasn't going to believe me. She needed someone to blame, and I was the easiest target. That night, I couldn't sleep at all, kept replaying our last conversation over and over in my head. How had we gotten here? Somewhere along the way, that little girl who used to run into my arms when I got home from work had turned into someone who was ashamed of me, someone who could believe I deliberately hurt her, and that realization hurt worse than anything she could have said. The next morning, I saw the story had made it to the local gossip pages. Nothing huge, just a little blurb about drama at the Henderson-Mitchell wedding with vague details about a revelation that caused a delay. But it was enough to know that Lily's humiliation wasn't just private. It was public now, too. I thought about reaching out again, offering support, being the dad who fixes things. But the truth was, I couldn't fix this, and she didn't want me to try. So I stayed away, gave her the space she seemed to want, and tried to accept that maybe our relationship was over for good. About a week after the wedding, I started hearing from mutual friends and distant relatives. Apparently, Lily was telling anyone who would listen that I deliberately ruined her wedding out of spite, said I was jealous of her marrying into money, that I couldn't stand to see her rise above her upbringing. Emma, Lily's childhood friend, called me one evening. "I thought you should know what's being said," she told me, sounding uncomfortable. "Lily, she's really painting you as the bad guy here." "What exactly is she saying?" I asked, my stomach knotting up. Emma hesitated. "That you've always been jealous of her success, that you wanted to keep her in her place, that you told Nathan's father she was just marrying him for money." I sat there, phone in hand, trying to process this. My own daughter, who I'd raised alone since she was 8, who I'd sacrificed everything for, was now dragging my name through the mud to save face. "There's more," Emma added reluctantly. "She's reconnected with her mom." That hit me like a physical blow. Sandra, my ex, had walked out on us when Lily was little. Barely sent birthday cards, never paid child support, essentially abandoned our daughter to chase some guy to California. Now, suddenly, she was back in the picture. "How long has this been going on?" I asked. "A few months, I think, before the wedding," Emma replied. "She didn't tell you?" No, she sure hadn't. Another secret, another lie. I tried calling Lily a few times after that, but she'd blocked my number. I sent a few emails that went unanswered. Finally, I drove to her apartment, thinking maybe a face-to-face conversation could clear things up. Big mistake. She opened the door just enough to glare at me. "What are you doing here? We need to talk, Lily. These rumors you're spreading, they're not rumors," she cut me off. "You ruined everything. You couldn't stand to see me happy, could you? Couldn't stand to see me become something more than a carpenter's daughter." "That's not true. I never contacted Nathan's family. I would never save it." Her voice was ice cold. "Mom was right about you all along. That stopped me in my tracks." "Your mother? The woman who walked out on us? That's who you're trusting now?" A tall, thin woman appeared behind Lily. It took me a second to recognize Sandra. 20 years had changed her, but not for the better. She had that hard look of someone who's lived rough. "Jim," she said with a fake smile, still playing the martyr, I see. I ignored her, focusing on my daughter. "Lily, please, whatever your mother's been telling you." "She's been telling me the truth," Lily interrupted. "How you drove her away, how you always tried to control everything, how you couldn't stand for either of us to have our own lives." I stared at her, genuinely speechless. Sandra had abandoned us, left me to raise our daughter alone while she chased boyfriends across the country. Now, she'd somehow rewritten history, and Lily was buying it completely. "That's not what happened," I finally managed to say. "You know that's not what happened. I was a child." "I only knew what you told me," Lily replied. "I only saw what you wanted me to see." I looked from her to Sandra and back again, realizing this was pointless. Whatever narrative they constructed together, they were committed to it. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said quietly. "When you're ready to talk about what really happened, I'll be here." As I turned to leave, Sandra called after me. "Actually, Jim, we do need to discuss something. The settlement." I turned back. "What settlement?" Sandra smiled, that same calculating smile I remembered from the divorce. "For the emotional distress you caused Lily by ruining her wedding, for the reputational damage. We've been talking to a lawyer. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're suing me? Your own father?" Lily stood her ground. "You did this, Dad. You cost me my marriage, my future, my relationship with Nathan's family. There have to be consequences." I just shook my head and walked away. There was nothing left to say. The legal threat came through official channels almost 3 days later. A demand letter from some fancy downtown law firm claiming I engaged in intentional infliction of emotional distress and defamation of character, resulting in the loss of financial security and social standing. They were asking for $75,000 in damages. I took the letter to my own lawyer, who's been a friend since high school. He read it and let out a low whistle. "This is garbage," he said bluntly, "but garbage that could still cost you a lot to fight." "What should I do?" He sighed. "Honestly, send a firm response denying everything. Make it clear you'll fight it all the way and hope they back down. My guess is this is Sandra's idea, not Lily. She always did see you as a meal ticket." I nodded, remembering how Sandra had tried to go after my future earnings during the divorce, even though she was the one who cheated and left. "And Jim," he added, "you might want to update your will and business paperwork. Make sure Lily doesn't have any claim to your assets or business if things get uglier." That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, trying to wrap my head around everything. My daughter, who I'd given everything for, was now threatening to sue me based on lies. With a heavy heart, I made the hardest decision of my life. I would protect myself legally, financially, and emotionally. I couldn't keep trying to reach someone who didn't want to be reached. I couldn't keep loving someone who seemed to hate me. The next morning, I started the process of cutting ties. I changed my will, removing Lily as beneficiary, updated my business paperwork to ensure she had no claim to it, changed the locks on my house and workshop, and blocked her on social media. It felt like a death in a way. The death of the relationship I thought we had, the death of the future I'd imagined, but I couldn't see any other way forward. Sometimes you have to accept when something is truly broken. The lawsuit threat hung over my head like a dark cloud for months. My lawyer handled all communication with Lily's lawyer, keeping me at arm's length from the whole mess. "Don't contact her directly," he warned me. "Everything needs to go through proper channels now." It was a special kind of hell, living in the same small town as my daughter but having to treat her like a hostile stranger. I'd see her car outside the grocery store and wait in the parking lot until she left. Once I spotted her and Sandra having lunch at my favorite diner, and I just turned around and walked out. It didn't even matter that I was starving after a long morning of work. The business kept me sane during this time. I threw myself into it, taking on more projects than I could handle, working 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Physical exhaustion was the only thing that helped me sleep at night. About 6 months after the wedding disaster, Phil called with news. "They're dropping the lawsuit threat," he said. "Turns out their case was as flimsy as we thought. They had zero evidence you contacted Nathan's family." "That's good," I said, feeling empty rather than relieved. "There's more," he added. "Lily and Nathan are officially divorced." The prenup held up. She didn't get anything. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me felt sorry for her, knowing her dreams of a wealthy lifestyle had crumbled. Another part felt she'd brought it on herself with all the lies and pretending. One last thing, my lawyer said. Sandra's moved into Lily's apartment. Apparently they're roommates now. That explained a lot. Sandra had always been good at manipulating situations to her advantage. Now, she had a place to stay and was probably draining whatever resources Lily had left. Life went on. I dated a bit, mostly because my friends insisted I needed to get back out there. I met a woman named Carol at a home improvement workshop I was teaching at the community center. She was recently divorced, had 2 teenage kids, and was trying to learn some DIY skills to save money on home repairs. We hit it off right away. She was straightforward, unpretentious, and had a great laugh. After a few dates, she invited me over for dinner to meet her kids, Jason and Megan, 14 and 16, nice kids. A little wary of their mom dating, but polite enough. Carol and I took things slow. Weekend dates, family movie nights with her kids, gradually building something real. She never pushed for more than I was ready to give, seeming to understand that I was still healing from the situation with Lily. One night, about a year after I'd met Carol, we were sitting on my porch swing after dinner. "So," she said casually, "Jason and Megan have been asking when you're going to move in." I looked at her surprised. "They have?" She nodded. "They like having you around. So do I, for that matter." "I like being around," I admitted. "You 3 are the best thing that's happened to me in a long time." "But," she prompted, always able to hear the unsaid things. I sighed. "But I'm still dealing with all this Lily stuff, still trying to figure out how a father and daughter end up so completely estranged. I worry I'm bringing too much baggage." Carol took my hand. "Everyone our age has baggage, Jim. I've got an ex-husband who's consistently disappointing our kids and a stack of credit card debt from trying to keep the house after the divorce. You've got a daughter who made bad choices. Neither of us is coming to this relationship fresh and perfect." She was right, of course. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I was ready for this next step. So I moved in with Carol and the kids, converted their garage into a small workshop for my personal projects, and started teaching Jason some basic woodworking skills. Life developed a new rhythm, a new kind of happiness I hadn't expected to find again. About 8 months after I moved in with Carol, I ran into Emma at the hardware store again. "How's she doing?" I asked, unable to help myself. Emma hesitated. "Not great. Sandra took off again a few months back. Apparently she ran up a bunch of credit card debt in Lily's name, then disappeared." That sounded like Sandra. "Where's Lily working now?" "Some receptionist job at a dentist's office. Barely covers her rent," Emma replied, looking uncomfortable. "She asks about you sometimes, when she's been drinking." I didn't know what to do with that information. Part of me still cared, still wanted to help, but the other part remembered the lawsuit, the awful lies, the deliberate cruelty. "Tell her I'm doing okay," I finally said. "That's all." A week later, I came back to the shop after a lumber run to find Lily sitting in her car in the parking lot. My first instinct was to turn around and leave, avoid another confrontation, but something made me park and get out. She got out too, looking nervous. She'd lost weight, not in a healthy way. Her clothes were simple now, a far cry from the designer outfits she'd worn during her time with Nathan. She looked older than her years. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Is your lawyer aware you're here?" I replied, my voice cold. She winced. "I fired them months ago. That was Mom's idea, not mine. A lot of things seem to have been your mom's idea." She didn't argue with that. "I made mistakes, huge ones. I know that." "What do you want, Lily?" I crossed my arms, watching her squirm. I want to apologize for everything, for lying about you, for the lawsuit, for believing Mom's version of things." She took a shaky breath. "And I want to ask if there's any way you'd consider giving me another chance." I studied her face, trying to gauge her sincerity. "Why now?" She looked down. "I have nothing left. No money, no prospects. Mom cleaned me out and disappeared. I lost my apartment last month. I'm staying on Emma's couch." Her voice dropped. "I thought maybe I could work for you, learn the business, like we talked about before everything went wrong." I let out a bitter laugh. "So, let me get this straight. You erased me from your life to impress some rich folks, sued me for ruining your wedding, dragged my name through the dirt, and now that you've hit rock bottom, you want a fresh start from me, just like that?" She flinched. "Dad, please, I know I messed up." I shook my head. "You don't get it, do you? You sound just like her." Her head snapped up. "Who?" "Your mother." I let the words hang, watching as the realization hit her. She used people when it suited her, left when it got hard, lied to cover up her own selfish choices. And when she ran out of options, she came crawling back, expecting everyone to forget what she did. And now, here you are, standing in front of me, asking me to do the same thing. Tears welled up in her eyes. "That's not fair. I'm not like her." "Then prove it. Stand on your own 2 feet. Fix what you broke. But you're not dragging me down with you again." She let out a shaky breath, wiping at her eyes. I don't know how, I sighed. Figure it out, like the rest of us do. She stared at me for a long moment, then something in her snapped. She reached into her bag and threw something hard at my feet. The wooden box. The one I made for her wedding. You really thought this would fix everything? She spat, her voice shaking. I picked it up, a crack had formed on the lid. Didn't expect you to throw it. Her hands clenched. Do you know how humiliating it was? For a second I thought you'd actually shown up, but no, just this sad little box with some note, like I was supposed to have some big emotional epiphany. Did you expect me to break down crying? I exhaled. No, just wanted you to have something from me, something real. She swallowed hard, looking away. You didn't even read the letter, did you? I set the box aside. You raised me, and now you're mad I didn't. She fought back tears. You should have fought for me. I did for 20 years hardest when you didn't need me. Her chin trembled. I reached into my wallet, pulled out a few $20 bills and held them out. This is all I can offer you now, a little help while you find your own way. She stared at the money, jaw clenched. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, it's a choice, just like you made yours. She hesitated for a long moment, then finally took the money with a trembling hand. As she turned to leave, I called after her, Lily. She stopped but didn't turn around. What are you going to do when the next rich guy lets you down? She tensed up, then got in her car and drove away without another word. I laughed and just turned back to my workshop, picked up a piece of unfinished wood, and got back to work. I didn't care what she was going to do. She learned her lesson, but she lost her dad through it. That night I told Carol everything, every word, every look, every moment where I thought maybe things could have gone differently. She listened the way she always did, quietly, without judgment, letting me get it all out before she finally spoke. So, are you okay with how you left things? She asked. I stared at the ceiling for a second before answering. I don't know if okay is the right word. It sucks. It really sucks, but yeah, I think it was the right thing to do. She's got to figure things out on her own. I can't keep being the guy she comes to only when she's drowning. She reached over and squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, I think you handled it the best way you could. You didn't slam the door, but you didn't let her walk all over you either. That's not easy. Yeah, well, nothing about this has been easy. Before she could respond, Jason and Megan burst into the room, already mid-argument. I just shook my head, letting their voices wash over me. Jason was sprawled on one side of me. Megan, half distracted but still ready to argue, sat on the other side, typing furiously but throwing in a quick eye roll every now and then. Carol sat back, amused, letting them go at it. And as I sat there, in the middle of this little world we'd built, something clicked. Family isn't always who you're born to. Sometimes it's the people who show up, who stay, who let you be yourself without making you feel like you have to prove your worth. It's the ones who argue over dumb movies and steal the last slice of pizza and make you laugh when you think you've got nothing left in you. I didn't know if Lily would ever be part of my life again. Maybe one day, years from now, we'd have a real conversation without all the bad baggage. Or maybe we wouldn't. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't holding my breath waiting for it to happen. Because right here, in this messy, imperfect, loud little family, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And that was enough.